person I've ever met, and I have met her, or ever known, understands more intuitively and deeply the problems of radical Islam than Brigitte Gabriel. Brigitte Gabriel, welcome again to the Bill Cunningham Show.
Thank you, my friend. I'm delighted to be back with you.
Good to have you. So many issues, so little time. We got the Putin issue. We got the Yazidis mass graves being located. We have the refugees coming into America. So let's talk about the Obama administration wanting to resettle literally hundreds of thousands of Muslims out of the Middle East, especially in Syria, and put them all over the United States of America. What can be done to stop it, assuming that's your intention?
Oh, this is the frightening part, as if we have not seen what's happening in Europe right now. You see, now, when September 11th happened and the 911 Commission report came out and they said we lacked imagination. Well, today, Bill, after seeing what the refugees, these Syrian so-called refugees are doing in Europe, we cannot hide and say we lack imagination when we bring in these Syrian refugees into the country. And that's exactly what Obama wants to do. He is ignoring the signs of what's happening in Europe. But we at Act for America, and you know, Act for America is now the largest national security grassroots organization in the country, devoted solely to national security. We want to stop Obama, so we are already working in Congress. We introduced two bills, one by Congressman Babin of Texas and one by Congressman McCall, who is the chairman of the Homeland Security Committee. Both bills will stop Obama from bringing Syrian refugees into the country. Actually, with the Babin bill, we already have 44 co-sponsors, and we are looking to gather more. So I encourage people to go to our website, actforamerica.org, sign up to join our refugee resettlement working groups, because we are mobilizing the country and creating pockets of basically resistance in your own community, where we can give you tips on what you can do to stop refugees from coming into your community and how we can support these bills.
And how about in Michigan, because Hamtramck just elected its first majority Muslim city council, and this has nothing to do with religion, everything to do with the fact that we can have, in addition to the 1 million refugees brought here every year, Obama's thinking about doubling and tripling that over the next year. We can't afford it. But number two, isn't there a serious opportunity for the jihadists of ISIL to implant many individuals within that group that wants to do serious harm inside America?
Oh, that's the greatest fear. You know, not only that they do not want to assimilate, but if we can put that aside, that's a whole other issue. But the infiltration of ISIS into these refugees, we know that ISIS already said that they have already 4,000 ISIS recruiters and activists into Europe now, as smuggled in as refugees, between the refugees. So ISIS already came out and said that. We know from our own intelligence community, Bill, that now we know that there are 900 ISIS suspects in all 50 states. And that's according to our government. I mean, that is public intelligence right now that we are aware of. And when you look, for example, at let's look at the guy that we killed, Jihadi John, that we killed in Syria today. Now, this man was born in Kuwait. He came from a wealthy family, and his loyalty is to Kuwait, what he calls his birth country. He told a friend back in 2010, he said, I had a job waiting for me and a marriage. I feel I am in prison, not in a cage, but in London, because I feel the security people are stopping me from going to my birthplace and my country, Kuwait, where he was born. So now we want to bring refugees into the country, and people who are born outside of this country, specifically Islamic countries in the Middle East and elsewhere, whose loyalty and identity is with their birth country, not with their adopted country, for example, the United States. And that's the difference. Because before, when refugees came to the country, or any people came to the country, Bill, we came to America, and what makes America great is uno pluribus unum. Out of many, we become one. Right now, what we are witnessing with Islamic immigration all across the globe, Europe is a preview of what's coming to the United States. But when you look at Islamic immigration into Australia, Canada, New Zealand, any other place, the United States, what we are discovering as these Islamists, their loyalty is to their birth country, not why we cannot allow any more Syrian refugees from coming to the United States of America, and we need your help. Those of you listening, you have a duty as an American citizen to do everything you can to protect our nation so we can pass it to our future generation the way we received it from our parents and those who came before us. Stand with us. Go to actforamerica.org, sign our petition about the refugees, and also join our refugee resettlement working group.
And the important thing to remember is America has been in the past a nation of immigrants who came here to assimilate. This is the first immigrant group in American history that do not assimilate. Faisal Muhammad on a University of California campus about a week or 10 days ago issued a jihad, went around campus slashing individuals. You had the Moore, Oklahoma beheading. You have thousands of circumstances of honor killings inside of America. The same thing that's happening in Northern Europe and England is happening to America now. And if we don't recognize the problem in 2015, by 2030, we're going to have a country fundamentally different than we want. And we've made no decision to do it. In fact, Brigitte, Gabriel, if this issue was on the ballot, it would be an incredible circumstance where 90% of us would not say no. We would say hell no to the settlement of large numbers of refugees from Syria. And so Obama is on his own. He's doing what he wants to do because it fits his world vision. So we got to stop it. But here's the big question. We know what's going on. Obama is lawless when it comes to enforcing federal law. Even if these laws are passed, he's going to veto them. And then it takes 2/3 to override, even if it's the law of the land, much like with other aspects of immigration or releasing 6,000 felons, other things he's done in a lawless fashion. What do you do when even the court system is issuing orders to Obama to stop what he's doing and he refuses to do so? What do? I feel powerless many times.
There's a lot we can do because right now we're working on bills on the state level that will give power to the state to reject having refugees coming into that state because it puts a financial burden on the state that the state cannot handle. And this is how we're giving power to the state. So what we're doing is we're not only working on the federal level, we're working on bills on the federal level. We passed a bill like that in Tennessee. We are introducing that type of bill in many states across the nation. We are also mobilizing citizens in their own community to educate them when to show up to city council meetings and to meetings where they are voting on these refugees coming to your state. A lot of people, Bill, are not notified. They have no idea when city council is holding a meeting approving a vote to resettle refugees in a certain city or state. And I believe the American citizens need to be informed because if they are informed, they'll be mobilized. And that's exactly what Act for America is doing across the nation, mobilizing citizens. Those who are involved in our refugee resettlement working group, Bill, we even send them tips on what state or what city there's going to be a meeting where they're going to be approving refugees coming into the state or the city where we actually had our people show up and stop it. That's the power we want to put in people's hands, and that's why I want people to go to actforamerica.org and join us.
Brigitte, Gabriel, there's been reporting the last few days about Jihadi John's death. We assume he's dead. We're going to find out. I don't know if there's ever going to be confirmation. But one thing Donald Trump talks about is telling the Russians to kick the excrement out of ISIS, to do what we ought to be doing. What are your feelings about Donald Trump or anybody using the Russian Air Force to kill Islamic extremists? Is that something we should be doing? Do you think Trump has a point about Russia doing it because we can't? What are your thoughts about Donald Trump and his hard line on immigration and his hard line in Syria?
You know, I have to say, as a fellow American citizen, God bless Donald Trump for what he is doing and his stand, because he is saying what many people don't have the spine to say, don't have the backbone to say, don't have the will to say. And he can say it because he's funding himself. He is not beholden to anybody or any interest. He doesn't care whether the media likes him, whether the politicians like him. He doesn't care. And he is absolutely correct. I mean, Russia is doing what America should have done. But Russia is filling the void of America, who has become a paper tiger, led by a spineless man who does not want to go to war for any reason whatsoever, and that is even defending and fighting on the right side of history. actually tell you that the next election is going to be the deciding factor for the future of our country. Because forget the little minute problems that we used to have in the past, a little bit of the economy, that could be turned around and fixed. But the ramification of the foreign policy that we have today and the ramification of that policy on our children and future generation is going to be deadly unless we elect a very strong man in the future who's going to stand up for America and who's going to help bring America to be the great nation that it always was. And we need to make America great again.
Let me share with you a story out of USA Today yesterday. A few thousand people once lived in this tiny Iraqi village, which is Sununi, Iraq, 270 miles north of Baghdad. Today it is a ghost town with few signs of life. Mass graves nearby where members of the Yazidi sect were slaughtered by Islamic State militants. They have found 11 mass graves containing 5,000 largely men and children, and they also have located 3,000 Yazidi women used as sex slaves when they swept through the area in August of 2014. And at this point, it appears that in one fell swoop, ISIS murdered 5,000 people and put them in mass graves, and they've been located. Where are the 3,000 to 5,000 Yazidi women and young girls used as sex slaves? Where are they today?
They are, some of them are in ISIS strongholds, still being used. Some, they are out in refugee camps. And that's the sad reality about what happened to the Yazidis. And the world is sitting idly by and watching, Bill. I mean, when you have ISIS committing mass murders on a mass scale, killing children even, the world watches by and basically yawns as if they're watching the Weather Channel. And we in America, as the leading beacon of light in the world for democracy, for freedom, for protection of human rights, when we sit on the sidelines and see what has happened to the Yazidis, because this did not happen overnight. ISIS told us already for months before they attacked the Yazidis what they were going to do to them, and we didn't do anything.
No. We should have done something, and this is exactly what's happening in Syria, and I don't blame a Syrian father or Syrian mother to want to leave those circumstances. It is tough, it is impossible, but someone else's need doesn't create, on my part, a right to accept them. If we had plenty of jobs in this country, if we had budget surpluses, maybe it's one thing to know who we get to properly vet them. But Obama's waving into this country 440,000 refugees from the Middle East and Africa have now been resettled into Minnesota. 600,000 have gone into the state of Virginia. We don't know who they are. We don't know where they came from. They're all supported by federal government. As soon as a refugee comes here, the Obama administration, in their native language, gives them an entire canopy of federal rights that they have, including welfare benefits, food stamps, Obama phones, Section 8 housing allowances. We are being pecked to death by individuals, and in a sense, in a human way, Brigitte, Gabriel, I understand why they would do that. If I was a poor, disabled Mexican 400 miles south of Guadalajara, I would want to make it to Houston, Texas, or Austin as soon as I could. But we have to know who's coming in. We got to know what their intentions are, and we got to be able to afford it. Go ahead in Europe. Give me your prediction. In 5 or 10 years, when Sweden and Germany have unbridled immigration, right now it's almost the winter. What happens next spring when another million comes? Next summer when another million comes? What happens to America if Hillary Rodham Clinton is elected to the presidency and she has now more of an open border policy than Obama? What happens to our country?
We're going to lose our country. And this is why we're saying Europe is a preview as to what's coming to the United States. Europe now is at stage 4 cancer. You cannot turn Europe around. In 10 years, those countries that you named will be Islamic. I mean, look at France. Look what's happening in Sweden, in Belgium. You can go down the list in Europe. And right now, they lost complete control, Bill. They cannot turn the tide around. They're not having enough babies. These Muslims came in. They're raping their children. And they are basically saying it out loud. I'm sure you've seen videos on the internet going around how they're saying, we're going to marry your daughters are going to marry men with beards, and they're going to have Muslim children and women and girls dressed in burqas. They're already telling us that. And this is why in America today, and they are using it. And crime is on the rise, rape is on the rise, honor killing is on the rise. This is not what we need in our community, and it's our responsibility now to take action and stop it as American citizens.
We have terrible lawlessness in Washington. It is unbelievable. We, the American people, have not decided to do this. Our leaders don't want to do it, but we have one man sitting in the White House, the most lawless president this side of Richard Milhouse Nixon, who claims he wants to fundamentally transform the country, and he's doing it. George Soros would be very happy. Brigitte, Gabriel, once again, we got to run. What is your website, if any? And you're urging the American people, Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, Texas, New York, Minnesota, Chicago, Los Angeles. What is your website?
Our website is actforamerica.org. Act for America. We didn't name the organization. Think about America, hope for America, pray for America, wish for America. You can do all the above. But if you don't take action, nothing will change. Actforamerica.org. Go stand with us today. Join us, support us financially, stand with us in any way you can.
Brigitte, Gabriel, you're a great American, and thanks for coming on the Bill Cunningham Show.